The News Line.
Hello and welcome back to People's TV. In today's video commentary, we're tackling a topic that has stirred controversy for years. The rumor that Mossad, Israel's covert intelligence agency, assassinated Dr. Amith Munindradasa. Anti-Israel and pro-Hamas activists in Sri Lanka frequently push this claim to discredit Israel. But what is the truth behind this allegation? Today, we will separate fact from fiction. If you do not know who Dr. Amith was, he was a brilliant electronic engineer and an expert in quantum physics. Born in Panadura in 1966, he studied at Sri Sumangala Vidyalaya, Panadura, and later at Royal College, Colombo. He earned his PhD from the University of Liverpool in the United Kingdom. At the time of his death, he was a senior faculty member at the University of Moratuwa. Beyond his academic career, Dr. Amith was also a professional photographer and a passionate wildlife preservationist, even discovering a new species of frog. Yet, today, we are not discussing his remarkable life, but rather his untimely death, an event that anti-Israel activists have pinned on Mossad. To understand why, we must go back to the mid-2000s. The Sri Lankan government purchased one or more multi-barrel rocket launcher, MBRL, kits from the Czech Republic. These were shipped to Sri Lanka on a hired Russian plane via Azerbaijan and Iran. However, upon arrival, when the kits were unloaded and assembled, the army discovered they were useless. The central control unit, the electronic brain of the system, was severely damaged. Replacing the units would have cost more than buying entirely new launchers. This damage had reduced an expensive battlefield weapon into nothing more than scrap metal. And this came at a critical moment. The Sri Lankan armed forces were at a decisive stage in the war against the LTTE. Dozens of military bases in the north and east were on the verge of collapse. Time was running out. Fixing the MBRLs was literally a matter of life and death. It was then that Dr. Amith Munindradasa stepped in. He worked tirelessly for 6 days and nights, finally repairing the launchers and enabling the military to send them back to the battlefield. This achievement earned him widespread recognition, but tragically, that very recognition became the reason for his assassination. So, what really happened, and who was responsible for Dr. Amith's death? Anti-Israel critics point the finger at Mossad, claiming Israel feared losing its foothold in the weapons market if Dr. Amith continued providing his expertise to Sri Lanka. This is patently absurd. In reality, these critics cannot explain why Mossad would ever have wanted to kill him in the first place. The truth is much broader, and it reveals how Sri Lanka lost a brilliant mind to the corruption deeply rooted in our state institutions. According to the banned news site Lanka E-News, which was targeted during the Rajapaksa administration when Gotabaya Rajapaksa was defense secretary, Dr. Amith's death mirrored the fate of veteran journalist Lasana Wickremachung and the editor of the Sunday Times. Major General Kamal Gunaratne, a close ally of Gotabaya, even addresses the situation in his book The Road to Nandakadal. However, he makes no mention of Dr. Amith's contribution, and that omission, as we will see, was deliberate. In April 2007, the Lanka logistics establishment compelled the Air Force to consider purchasing an unmanned aerial system. The proposal was forwarded through Lanka Logistics, chaired by Gotabaya Rajapaksa, with the 3 service commanders as ex officio members. In practice, however, Gotabaya wielded all the power, while the commanders were reduced to mere rubber stamps. Lanka Logistics sought to force the purchase of the Blue Horizon 2 UAV system, manufactured by E.M.I.T Aviation Consultants, an Israeli company. The Air Force dismissed the deal as a white elephant and a waste of money. Their evaluation, based on a 6-member committee, including Commodore P.B. Ratnayaka and UAV Commanding Officer M.D.J. Voss, noted that the company had failed to even provide a skilled demonstration of the aircraft. Gotabaya, however, exerted relentless pressure to push the transaction through. His plan was to conclude the deal by mid-2007, pocketing millions of dollars in commission. Since 1991, it had been Dr. Amith who provided technological advice to the government on weapons procurement. Dr. Amith, however, stood firmly against the deal. He flatly refused to endorse a transaction that he believed constituted plundering public funds. Yet, under immense pressure from Gotabaya and the Defense Ministry, on June 6, 2007 he was forced to travel to Israel. He checked into the Tel Aviv Marina Hotel, with the UAV deal hanging entirely on his signature. The local representative for this deal was Arjuna Gunavardena, another of Gotabaya's associates. He represented Protect Risk Management Solutions Limited, a fake British company, much like the non-existent Bali Missile Holdings. The parent company, E.M.I.T. Aviation Consultancy of Israel, was itself a rejected entity. On June 9, 2007, the company carried out a UAV test run in front of Dr. Amith. To him, the demonstrations were unimpressive and trivial. Without hesitation, and consistent with the Air Force's prior rejection, he threw out the transaction. 2 days later, on June 11, 2007, Dr. Amith was suddenly hospitalized. The following day, it was announced that he had died. He had been admitted to Ichilov Hospital in Tel Aviv, where the official cause of death was declared as pneumonia. To his family, this explanation made no sense. He had no prior health issues, never used Western medicine, and relied exclusively on Ayurveda. Mentally and physically fit, the claim that he suddenly contracted pneumonia in Tel Aviv was a mystery. His family demanded a post-mortem examination by the Sri Lankan government. Yet, when his remains were returned to Sri Lanka, the opposite occurred. The post-mortem was refused. The Defense Ministry pressured his family, imposed unofficial censorship on the funeral, and restricted media coverage. A number of his colleagues, doctors who knew him personally, attended the funeral. They rejected the pneumonia claim, believing instead that he had been poisoned. Only 6 days after his death, Lanka Logistics paid half the amount of the rejected UAV deal. Gotabaya violated the establishment code and concluded the transaction anyway, importing the Blue Horizon 2 UAV from E.M.I.T. Aviation Consultants at a cost of $6.5 million, nearly twice the competitive market price. The transaction was a carbon copy of the infamous MiG jet deal. Lasanta Wickremachung was murdered before exposing the MiG deal, while Dr. Amith was murdered after blocking the UAV deal. Gotabaya used his discretionary powers to push through shady arms deals, but Dr. Amith stood in his way time and again. While the service commanders acted as rubber stamps, Amith rejected corrupt deals with courage and integrity. He was the true patriot. At the war's conclusion, land deeds were distributed to commanders not as recognition of their service, but as bribes, to silence them, since they were partners in Lanka Logistics' irregular and illegal transactions. There is further evidence pointing to foul play in Amith's death. In early 2007, a member of the Karuna faction asked the writer of this account to help photograph a house in Panadura. Together, they went to Parivana Road, Pinwat, and photographed the residence. Months later, when the writer attended Amith's funeral, he realized it was the same house that had been targeted. It became clear that Karuna's group had been contracted to carry out the assassination. A man like Dr. Amith Munindradasa was an irreplaceable asset to the nation. Instead of protecting him, the Defense Ministry deliberately endangered him, sending unmarked military vehicles to his home, exposing his identity, and drawing his ire. While suicide bombers were terrorizing Colombo, the ministry was trifling with his life. Their strategy was simple. If poisoning failed, the backup plan was to stage his assassination as a tiger bombing. Dr. Amith was a man of extraordinary intelligence and patriotism. On multiple occasions, he was offered high-ranking posts abroad, including a senior security position in Israel and an academic role at Tel Aviv University. He was also offered countless bribes worth millions, often from Lanka Logistics itself. His response was always the same. He owed his education to the innocent people of Sri Lanka, and his duty was to repay that debt, not to amass wealth. He vowed to serve his country until death. That he did. A true patriot was silenced, not by Mossad, but by the very corruption festering within Sri Lanka's defense establishment. In the end, all evidence points in one direction. Dr. Amith Munindradas's sudden death was not the result of natural illness, nor the handiwork of Mossad, as some may speculate. The timeline of events, the pressure he faced from Gotabaya Rajapaksa, the refusal of a post-mortem, the censorship of his funeral, the immediate signing of the very deal he opposed, and the consistent pattern of silencing critics all expose the real perpetrators. His death followed the same template as the MiG deal scandal and the silencing of Lasanta Wickremachung. The crux of the matter is clear. Dr. Amith was assassinated not by Mossad, but by the Rajapaksa administration. Just like Lasanta, he was eliminated for standing in the way of corruption and betrayal of the nation. His murder was a political execution disguised as misfortune.
Subscribe us for more details.